What do I get at the end?
Depends on your answers.
Severance Season 2 wrapped up with a bang, giving us some long-awaited answers about Lumon, while still leaving us with plenty of mysteries to unravel. We finally learned that the numbers Mark was refining were linked to his wife Gemma's mind, helping Lumon perfect the Severance chip. He even managed to free her from the testing floor, but in a surprising twist, he chose to stay behind with Helly instead of escaping with Gemma. And those goats? Yeah, we got some insight into that too, but there's still so much left to figure out. Where does the story go next? What's in store for Mark and Helly? Will Irving make a comeback? And could Mr. Milchick actually turn against Lumon? With Season 3 officially happening, we'll hopefully get some answers. Until then, let's dive into the biggest questions still haunting us. Got theories? Drop them in the comments, we're all ears. Let's start off with what's the plan for Innie, Mark, and Helly exactly? Yes, it was fantastically romantic seeing these two run off hand in hand, bathed in red light as the Season 2 finale drew to a close. Unless you're a Mark and Gemma fan, that is. But where are they even running to? It kind of felt like the ending of The Graduate. Elation, followed by, WTF do we do now? So how do Mark and Helly plan to fight back against Lumon, as well as their own outies? Is Season 3 going to be a hostage thriller of sorts, with Innie, Mark, and Helly refusing to leave the office, and essentially erasing outie Mark and Helena until their demands are met? Or will they figure out some clever way to outmaneuver both their outies and Lumon, using what little they know to tip the scales in their favor? What will Gemma do on the outside without Mark? We know Innie Mark left her stranded at that exit door, and we sure hope she gets out of the building safe and sound, but how will she work to get Mark back? We could see her teaming up with Devon and Miss Coble on the outside to lead a protest against Lumon, exposing it for the horrors it put her through and hopefully freeing Mark in the process. Or maybe she'll take a different approach, something more underground and strategic. Either way, it seems impossible that she'll just sit back and do nothing. And speaking of complicated relationships, who are we shipping now? This is the ultimate conundrum, isn't it? Season 2's 7th episode made us fall in love with outie Mark and Gemma's romance, and we cheered when they reunited, albeit briefly, in the finale. But we also understand why Innie Mark turned his back on her and opted to stay inside Lumon with Helly, aka the only love he's ever known. Do we even want to see Gemma get Mark out if it means Innie Mark and Helly's love story is over? But after everything she went through to escape, now Gemma has to live without her husband, just like he had to live without her. You see what we mean? Conundrum. Which leads to an even bigger question. Do we even want Mark to reintegrate anymore? Reintegration was dangled in front of us throughout Season 2 as a way for Mark to escape Lumon by merging his Innie and outie selves. But it was a messy process that yielded only fleeting results. Mark's lucky to have even survived it, according to Coble, and now we're not so sure we want that for him. Innie Mark laid out his concerns perfectly. What if a reintegrated Mark is much more outie than Innie, and Innie Mark is relegated to a corner of Mark's full consciousness? In rooting for reintegration, are we actually condemning Innie Mark to death? And what about Helena's fixation on Mark? Mark found himself in the middle of a very bizarre love triangle, shout out to New Order, this season, and he not only pursued his feelings for Helly, but also found himself pursued by her outie, Helena, even accidentally having sex with her during Episode 4's Ortbo outing, thinking it was Helly. Will Helena's weird obsession with Mark, seriously, we're still creeped out by that Chinese restaurant conversation, play a bigger role in Season 3 now that Mark is holed up inside Lumon with Helly? Will Lumon even find a way to switch Helly into Helena remotely? We've seen them do it before, and have her go undercover, posing as Helly to collect valuable intel and thwart Mark's revolution? Now that would be a wild twist. Will we ever see Irving and John Turturro again? It pains us to think of the MDR team being permanently broken up, but in Season 2, Irving was fired by Lumon, and his outie was put on a train out of town by Bert, possibly never to return. So does that mean John Turturro's time on the show is over? There's no definitive word yet on whether or not he'll be back for Season 3, and both Turturro and series creator Dan Erickson have been cagey when speaking about Irving's future prospects. But we know we'd miss Irving if he was gone for good, because we'd love to see him team up with Gemma, Devin, and Miss Coble to lead the charge against Lumon from the outside. And then there's the question of those numbers. Whose numbers were Helly, Irving, and Dylan refining? So we know Mark was refining numbers that corresponded to his wife Gemma, with each file representing one of her severed innies. But then, what were his co-workers refining? Were Helly, Irving, and Dylan also tinkering with Gemma's mind? Or are there other test subjects down there on the testing floor who match up with the files the other three were working on? Gemma can't be the only one, can she? And while we're on the subject, what's the significance of Gemma having 25 innies, with Cold Harbor being the last one? Why is 25 the magic number? Then there's that little Easter egg. What can the Thomas Crown affair tell us about what's next? Season 2's final scene, with Mark and Helly running through the halls of Lumon, is accompanied by a Mel Torme rendition of The Windmills of Your Mind. That song is best known from the 1968 movie The Thomas Crown Affair, starring Steve McQueen and Faye Dunaway. So was that a conscious reference by the show? The episode itself was certainly one big heist. The movie ends with McQueen's bank robber eluding Dunaway's investigator and getting away, even after she fell in love with him. Are Mark and Helly, like McQueen and Dunaway, seemingly doomed to never get a happy ending together because of who they really are? Or is Gemma like Dunaway, trying to wrangle a man she loves even while he's determined to remain an outlaw? Might have to rent this one and report back. And what has Mr. Milchick learned from his Season 2 experience? Miss Coble's former right-hand man went on an absolute journey in Season 2, being named the new manager of the Severed Floor, before doubts about his loyalty to Lumon began to creep in, especially when they gave him the gift of those unsettling paintings. He did revert back to being a Lumon company man in the Season 2 finale, but maybe his evolution continues in Season 3. We're holding out hope that he'll end up joining Mark and Helly in their uprising against Lumon. Workers unite! Oh, and we have to ask, what the hell is up with the goats? First of all, we loved meeting sweet-faced Emile, and we're very happy he survived the finale, but we're still a little puzzled about the whole goat thing at Lumon. So the company has an entire department, Mammalians Nurturable, dedicated to raising goats just so they can be sacrificed as an offering to Kier? We have to think there's more going on here. So yeah, there's a lot to look forward to in Season 3. What do you think? Got theories of your own? Drop them in the comments. Let's obsess over this together. And that's that for today's video. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.